I'm going to make this video as simple as I can possibly make it. I am going to just do the main differences between high and low probability setups and how to distinguish between high and low probability setups. So I'm going to put a screenshot up now. It's literally just like this. I have it on my phone. I'm going to put it up now. It literally tells you the exact difference between supply and demand, which are high probability and low probability. It shows you what makes it high probability and what makes it low probability. But if you still do not understand, I'm going to do a further breakdown of it now. So I'm just going to go to this example. We know the setup wins, but that's not what we're looking at. This is a valid demand, and we're just going to look at it like this. So once the demand gets valid, you just look at the candle that pushes outside the demand. This green candle, that's all we're looking at. This candle has a gap attached to it as of now. So let's just look at it. The gap is from literally from just the top of the previous wick. So that's it right there. From the top of the previous wick, before the wick that creates the demand, that you usually draw your demand zone over, you put the line right there. That is the top of the gap. Then the next place you place your line is literally where this candle that blasted out, where it closed, you put the second line. That right here, in between here, is the gap. This right here is literally the gap. All of this green here that's untapped, literally right there. That is just the gap. That makes this setup high probability. Okay, let's just delete this real quick. Okay, then let's break it down. So the next candle gives us the breaker structure, but this candle also fills in a little bit of the gap. So now once we've seen this, we move it there. Only this now is the gap. Right there is the gap. Then the next candle, oh, okay, it actually fills in a little bit more of the gap. Okay, so now that's just the gap there. Then the next candle fills the gap, rejects, and we get a non-breaker candle of this, or aggressive, however you decide to enter into a supply or demand. But I always take break of the candles. So I would have gone in at break of the candle, and there we go. So that is just the first example, but I'm going to go over a few just so it's easier to understand. Next example here, we can see that it wins, but that's not why we're looking at this. Okay, so let's hit the replay. Let's go here. Okay, let's just delete this as well. We see that we have the supply marked up like this. This candle blasts out there. Now we're just going to mark up the gap. The gap is literally from the beginning of the zone, literally where this green wick is, the candle before, you just mark it. It's not always going to be a wick. Sometimes it's going to be like a body of a candle. You just mark that up with the line, just like that. Then you put it at where the candle closed. This is the gap. All of this here, this is a big gap. All of this is a gap. All of this red here is a gap till this line. That is the gap. Then we wait for it to come and tap. I'm just going to spam click this. Okay, wait. Let's go a little bit slow. That went a little bit fast. Okay, let's go back a bit. So let's just push once. This candle came and filled in the gap a little bit more. So there's the gap now. Just this right there is the gap. Next candle didn't fill in anymore. Neither did this. Let's just wait for it to pull back a bit. Okay. Now this candle filled in a little bit of gap. So now the gap is literally from the top of that wick till this. That's the gap that still needs to be filled. Next candle actually fills in the entire gap and then taps into the supply. And I'd look to get in, well, since this candle didn't give us break of the candle, I would look to get in on this candle now. And once it breaks, I'd get into this supply here. This is a valid supply. These two that I just shown you are high probability. I'm going to show you guys a few examples of what low probability supply and demand looks like. The next two examples that I'm going to show you happened on GU, which is, it was literally yesterday. Okay, so let's zoom into this. This candle that blasts out the zone to make the zone a supply zone. Let's just look at it. This zone actually closed inside of the supply zone. That makes it invalid. So this is an invalid zone now, and people are going to ask why. Because this candle closed inside the zone there. There is no gap that needs to be filled outside the zone. There's literally no gap. You can't see any gap there. So even though this setup can win, which it will, I do see a lot, actually not a lot, but I do see supply and demands that are low probability win, but not very often. High probability supply and demand has a way higher win rate if you want to backtest it. As you can see, it taps in just like a normal supply zone, and you get in that break the candle, and you could have taken that. But just looking at it, there's no gap there. It's literally, we're looking at it directly after the candle that blasts out the zone. If it closes in the zone, it's invalid. Moving on to the next example here, just to show you guys that this is also a low probability. Okay, I'm just going to hit replay and then zoom in just so it's easier to understand. As of now on this supply, this is a counter trend supply. It doesn't matter, just we're looking at the gaps of the supply. So this, as of now, it's valid. If we look at it, this candle blasted out. Nothing tapped in the zone. As soon as it blasts out the zone, it closed out the zone. So there's our gap. Our gap is literally from there, from the top of the zone to that wick there. It's a small gap, but it's there. You're gonna even get even smaller gaps than this. That is the gap. You could sometimes, I'm just gonna show you guys now for an example. Sometimes you might even get a gap that is literally like that, but that is still a gap. No matter how small or no matter how big it is, that is a gap. But just for this, that's where the zone closed. Then the next candle actually tapped into the zone. This is making it low probability now. So if this zone, if the market had to come and tap into the supply again, it is not valid. As you can see, like, we already got the tap. This candle filled the gap that needed to be filled, making it a low probability setup. Then it had the breaker structure, and then it came to tap in, and then it rejected out the zone. I wouldn't take setups like this. I only take high probability. Okay, here's the next example that we're going to look at. Just look at this candle here. So this candle, as you can see, okay, I'm just gonna fast forward it so it makes a lot more sense. Okay, so this does end up actually winning. Doesn't matter about if it's winning or not. I'm trying to teach you guys where the gap is. So if we had to mark this up, this is a valid demand. You can literally see we broke minor structure here, came back, tapped, rejected, and then pushed up. So this low probability demand won, but I'm gonna show you guys why it's low probability. So as you can see, we have the demand marked up, but this green candle right here closed inside the zone. And as you can see like that, that is making it a low probability demand. Just like that, if it closes above the zone, if it closes, well, it closed inside the zone, but this wick went out and then came back in. That is just low probability. There's no gap attached to that. Then you might say, why isn't the gap here? That's just not how we trade this strategy. It is literally, you get the red candle, then the green candle literally directly after that. If that blasts out the zone, there has to be a gap on that. So this next candle here does have a gap, but this is not how we trade supply and demand. It has to be this candle that blasts out the zone, this green one here. Then it would be valid, but there's no gap on the setup, but it does end up winning. Hopefully this video did help someone. If you still do not understand, feel free to message me on Discord or Instagram, and I will get back to you. And join up the free Discord to learn even more there. Hope you guys keep grinding, keep getting to the next level, and I'll see you guys in the next video.